Today, we talk about how valuable it is to update existing content, how to diversify your income, and how newsletters can turn new visitors into fans. Take it away, Elizabeth.
And you'd be shocked at the responses that I get back from people who are like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. This is so helpful. Because I think that people don't always register like this email is coming from an actual person. So when they hear back from you, it's just like, oh wow, like listen to Cleaning Couple took the time. She's a real person. She actually wrote that email. How nice of her.
Hey there, I'm Jason Logston, and this is Makin Bacon. We're all about helping you serve your fans, grow your income, and get the most out of your blog. No matter how long you've been blogging, you never have all the answers, and there's always something left for you to learn. That's why it's so valuable to talk to people that have become successful doing it in a way different than from what you did. And that's one reason I'm so excited to talk to today's guest. She's been blogging for 6 years, does photography consulting, food blogging consulting, and is also presenting at the Everything Food Conference in Utah later this year. Last year, she brought in 6 figures, and she's continuing to grow her income. She's a perfect person to help us discover ways to take our blogs to the next level. So I can't wait to learn from today's guest, Elizabeth Falcigno from the Clean Eating Couple. Elizabeth, welcome to Makin Bacon.
Hi, Jason. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you.
I really appreciate you taking the time to come on today and share your expertise. I think it's always super helpful for bloggers to hear from someone like you that's gone through the process, they've become successful, they've grown their blog, and they have at least some of the answers to how someone else can accomplish that. And I know you're going to have a ton of helpful advice for my audience, but one thing I like to start with is, what is it like around your dinner table on a typical day?
So I'm embarrassed to say this, but we actually don't usually eat at our dinner table. My husband works kind of far away, so by the time he gets home, he has about an hour commute. We kind of both just want to sit and relax on the couch with our 2 dogs and eat our dinner in front of some TV. So honestly, usually we're just kind of relaxing on our couch, watching something on Netflix and enjoying one of the meals that I've cooked.
We also, our dinner table is also tray tables on our couch with our dog by our side. What types of dogs do you have?
So we have 2 dogs and they're lab hound mixes. We're not really sure exactly what they are because they're rescues, but they're awesome. And they're always happy to sit on the couch or on the floor, hoping that we will drop something for them to snack on.
They are always very patient, that's for sure.
Yeah.
A lot of topics I want to get into more details with you about, but I want to start with what you'll be presenting at the Everything Food Conference, which is updating old content. And I want to start here for a very selfish reason. I have around 1,000 pages on my website, and some of them haven't been touched in about a decade probably. And so I want to know, why is it so important to update all this old content and help me see exactly what I'm doing wrong, because I know I am.
Okay, so you have such an opportunity with that much content. Wow, I'm a little jealous. Updating old content is so great for so many reasons, and I'm super excited to be chatting about this at Everything Food Conference in a couple months. What it all boils down to is you have the opportunity to make more money off of existing stuff that you have with less effort. So when we look at just creating a regular recipe, let's just say banana bread. You never made banana bread before. You have to think about the time it's going to take you to write up the recipe, the time it's going to take you to go to the store. Then you're going to test the recipe probably 3-4 times. You want to make sure it's a perfect banana bread recipe. Once you've nailed the recipe, you've got to take the photos. Then you've got to do the SEO. You've got to write the post, promote the post, yada, yada, yada. You see where I'm going here. It's a lot. I mean, I think that we don't really think about how much truly goes into a post and how many hours we're really spending on it, but it's a lot of time. If you already have a post and you've already done the work of testing it and you know it's a great recipe, you've got, I would say, half the work done for you, or at least a significant chunk of it. So if you can take that really great recipe and kind of fluff up all the other parts of it, meaning taking really great images, maybe adding a video, really filling in some great SEO content, helpful tips, maybe some process shots, and then re-promoting it to your audience, you're going to be cutting your amount of work and time, and you're going to be making more money off of it because now you have an opportunity. More people are going to be seeing it on social media. More people are going to be clicking on your affiliate links in it. More people are going to be seeing the ads that are on that page when previously no one was looking at it. And now you have a whole host of new eyes that are in front of it. And aside from that, while I don't know, I wish that the people at Google would confirm this, but I think that it's pretty clear in my experience that Google does favor older links, meaning that if you have a banana bread recipe and you published it back, in 2019 or whatever, 2 years ago, and then you update it now, they kind of are like, oh, well, that's been the best banana bread recipe for almost 2 years now. So clearly she knows what she's talking about, because all these people have been looking at it. All these people have been leaving great reviews and great comments. So I feel like, well, I don't know, this is my personal theory, they kind of give you a little more love and a little more favor if that's the case with an older link.
That's been my understanding as well, that Google does favor older links, especially when they have been updated with fresh content.
Right.
So what goes into this process? You just listed off a lot of things you can do to update an old post. Do you generally remake the recipe and rephotograph it, or is it on-page type of programming stuff? What is just a general way that you approach updating a post that you want to get out there?
Yeah, so there's two kind of approaches to this. I would say that if your post is ranking super high in Google, like if you're on page 1 and it's a high search volume keyword, you're going to want to be careful with what you do to this post, because anytime you change something in a post, Google looks at it differently. So you don't want to go in and completely gut something, even if it has the most ugly photos and it's really a terrible post. You don't want to gut it completely, because you want to slowly change it so that it doesn't make Google go, whoa, wait, what is this? This is not what we originally thought banana bread was. This is a whole different kind of banana bread. So I would say if you're on that path, the best thing to do is maybe do it little by little. And I mean very, very minute details. So maybe you add in one new photo with process shots of how to make the banana bread. Maybe a month after that, you go back in and add helpful tips for making the best banana bread or substitutions for this banana bread. And little by little, you add in that content to make it a better piece of content. On the flip side, if no one has looked at this post in 5 years and it's on page 5 of Google, what do you have to lose? Nothing. And I know I personally, and I'm sure if you have thousands of blog posts, you probably have a few of those in there too.
Yep. That
it might be really great. And it might actually have really high search volume, but it's just a crappy post with crappy images and nothing in it. Completely gut it, take out everything in there, change the recipe, go in there, gut it completely. From testing the recipe, I do new photos, I do the content with all the SEO research, and then I promote it as if it's a brand new post on my site. I think that we kind of get stuck in our own heads and think, well, I talked about this once, so my audience must remember that this was, on my site. They don't know all of our content, so promote it out there like no one's ever seen it.
When you were talking about doing the SEO research and putting every question they've ever asked about banana bread onto that page, do you use them as like H2 headers with banana bread in each one? Do you break it up? What's a way that you found to be pretty effective updating old posts with those type of how-to or FAQ questions?
I have a free checklist for how to update old content that might be helpful for people, where I know that I just threw out a ton of info, but I have a nice PDF download that lists everything that you should do and how to decide which posts are really great to update. So that might be helpful for people. But when I'm writing the post, I don't make everything in H2, like, can you add pecans? Can you add this? Instead, I do something more general, like substitutions for healthy banana bread. And underneath that, I will probably type out the question, meaning, can you add nuts to this banana bread? Can you make this gluten-free? Or can you make this banana bread gluten-free? I write in a way that I think is serving Google, but more so does not sound like a robot. Because if you're reading something and you're like, banana bread, you'd be like, what the heck is this person talking like? Why are they talking like this, So I try to sound like a human, but also include that info that people would need.
Perfect. And then you, like you said, you then take that content, you put it out on social media, you put it back in your newsletter. Basically, you said you treat it like a new post to drive in as much new traffic as you can to it, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I do pretty much everything that I can. I will make it on Instagram stories if I have the time. I always send it out to my email list. I post on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, really wherever I can share it, I do. And I I don't even tell people, this was an old post and I updated the photos, because the average person doesn't even know that. The average person will be like, what are you talking about? No one, who cares? So I don't like lie and be like, this is a brand new recipe, but I just say this blueberry baked oatmeal is the best. Like, that's one I just did last week. That's a blog post that's been on my site for almost the entire time I've been blogging. It was one of the first things I published, and I've updated it 3 or 4 times at this point. So when I shared it, I treated it as if it was brand new.
So for someone like me that has a lot of content out there and sees the wisdom of needing to update it, how do I figure out where to start? Which of these thousands of pages should I turn my efforts to first?
Up to you. So you can do a couple different things. So what I recommend people do is go into your Google Analytics, and along with that free PDF that I talked about, I actually have another PDF that goes with it explaining the whole process of this. But what I usually recommend people do is they go to their Google Analytics and pick a time period that is going to, I think a year is probably a fair time period to look at. You don't want to look at, something seasonal like the holidays or whatnot. Make sure you're looking at something that's going to cover a couple seasons and all of that. So look at maybe a year in your Google Analytics and see what your top posts are. So sticking with our banana bread example, if banana bread was on there number 1 and I look, this is where you have to kind of think, because if you look and you are ranking number 1 for banana bread on Google, you don't want to go in there and go crazy with changing stuff. But you might look at that post and say, I know I'm ranking number 1, but I could add more content in here that would be helpful, or so-and-so is asking me a question about this and I think it should really be in there. And in turn, if you add that content to it, it's already a high traffic generating post. Then you're going to have more content. Your ads are going to fill in there and you're going to ultimately make a little bit more money if you have ads on your site. Or maybe you're going to add something in related to an affiliate partner of yours, and that's a great place to have that and make a little bit of money from that. So I think that those are kind of like quick little things that you can do. But I say to look at like your top 25 posts and kind of go through there. You might have posts that are really old and haven't been touched and are still way up there. So that's a really great place to start. And I found that most people that I give that, advice to, they have quite a checklist to go through, even if it's just something like creating a new Pinterest image. I mean, I think we've all heard about Pinterest saying that we need new, fresh content. That's an update to a post that you can make that can be really helpful. So I think that's a great place to start. The other way that you can kind of look at this is there are ways in Google Search Console to look at where you are basically on like the top of page 2. I think that that's a great way to kind of look at that. Yeah, that's a great place to look and see, what can I add to kind of bump this up and get it on page 1 where we really want it to be so that people are seeing it. So that's another place that you could start. Or if you are like, I love this banana bread recipe and it is the best, and I don't care that only 2 people have ever seen it, I have to update this because I want to share it with the world, then, go with that. I think that as food bloggers, it's kind of a piece of us that is creative by nature. So if you really love something, then I think that you should share it. So you can kind of go whatever path with that. I know that was kind of like a roundabout answer, but it's true. There's really no wrong way to do it.
Yeah. I feel like when someone says this is the specific thing you should do, normally they aren't giving you all the information. So I like that here's a few different directions you can take it.
Yeah.
And I think when you talk about taking your top posts, I think that also makes a lot of sense that a lot of the people finding you through Google are normally new people. And if it is an older post with older pictures, and if a blogger is anything like me, my photography, my writing, my recipe writing, everything has improved a lot over the last 10 years of doing this. I'm a lot better than I used to be. And if their first impression is now me from 5 years ago or 8 years ago, that's probably not the best first impression compared to what I could make if I spend a little time updating it. And even if the same amount of traffic's coming in, those people might go to other pages on my site, might become fans or buy cookbooks because I'm providing a much better kind of first impression.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
And I really like that idea of the second option you said of finding those pages that are doing good, but not quite as great as you want them to be, and then just see what you can do to kind of bump them over the edge.
Yeah. I've had a lot of posts that kind of fall in they're popular, but they're also on page 2, but they're also something that I love. So they're a little bit of each. And when you kind of just give it a little bit of love and make it just an overall better post, you'd be so surprised because one, Google sees it and they're like, oh, okay, this is a lot better. Let's bump it up. But two, you have all the power of like your audience that is like, realizes, oh, this is a really great recipe. This looks delicious. A lot of the time, not that I am my audience, but I find I have very similar tastes to my audience. So what I really love, even if it's something that maybe has like zero search volume and whatnot, it might be something that really resonates with them. So they're going to make it regardless.
I think that's important to differentiate mentally the types of posts that you have, that some posts are kind of SEO, bringing in new people posts. And then there's those posts that are more community building that, you know, someone new might never see it, but the people that follow you, it's going to resonate with them and make them, it's the reason that they follow you in a lot of cases. And it might just be for your community, but making sure that those are providing the information that your community wants as well is really important.
Yeah, I love that like idea of having kind of two different types of posts. That makes a lot of sense.
I have to give credit. I stole that from Tim Schmoyer. He talked about it for creating YouTube videos, that when he does it, he has three types of videos. He has the community building, which are just kind of inside things. They're not as well produced. They really resonate with your community. He has the discovery videos, which are the ones that are out there that would be like SEO posts on your blog, that they're designed to bring in new people. And then he has the sales videos, which are ones that kind of market as ebooks or as services, and they are much less frequent, but they're the ones that kind of drive his income. And I'd never thought of breaking it down like that before, so it really stuck with me.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And now that you're saying that, I kind of like can envision what posts go where and how they're bucketed on my site, which is kind of cool.
I always would recommend people, like, it's not all about SEO. You need to like make sure you're writing for your community. And I never quite realized that like those could just be two separate types of content, you know.
Yeah.
It just clicked really well for me.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So once you go through, you've added the new stuff, you've posted it on Instagram and Pinterest. Do you have to let Google know, or does Google just know everything because it's Google and it, hears all?
I do usually go into Google Search Console and I will hit the request indexing button. I don't know that it really makes a difference, but I think it is supposed to be giving Google kind of a little bit of a nudge to be like, hey, check this out. We updated it. It's a little bit better. So I don't think it can hurt to do that.
Perfect. Well, we could talk about this, I'm sure, for a few hours, but you have your checklist, so people can go on there, they can download the PDF, and they should come to Everything Food Conference and go to your panel and hear you talk.
Yes.
So I don't want to steal
both of our panels. We're going to have so many great things to talk about.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I know one thing that you have a big push on your website, when I was doing some research before the interview, was growing your email list using lead magnets and a lot of other methods. Is that something you've always done, or is it a new focus for you?
So that's something that I started working on really last year. I'd always had an opt-in on my site, honestly, since the day that I started it, back on my free WordPress site, I had a place for people to join. But it wasn't until last year that I created my first freebie for a free meal plan. And when I started to realize the power of email, because really what's set in stone for me is, I think we have all heard people talking about it and we probably all experienced it. Social media traffic is for most people going down. The algorithms are now pay to play where they used to not be. And not that it's a scary thought. It's not a scary thought. It's fine. I mean, we're all in business to make money, and just like Facebook and Instagram are. But the fact that if Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest were to go away tomorrow, I would have no way to contact anyone. It's just a scary thought. So that's what really made me push through to email. And when you think about it, email is one of the most personal ways that you can connect to someone as a content creator. You are showing up in their inbox right among all the other things that they have decided are important enough to them that they can be notified, whether it's like their family events or other stories that they love or, work. So you're right in there with a mix of important things to them, and they are reading it. I don't care what people say. They are reading it and they are clicking. So really it was just that kind of pushed me to move forward with it. And Then once I realized the potential that it had, I kind of got the email bug and went a little crazy with it. And now I absolutely love email marketing. I totally nerd out over it, and it's one of my favorite marketing tools at this point.
I also am a big fan of email lists and think they're incredibly important. It's just like my list is around 20,000 people, and we try to pare it back whenever with people that aren't clicking on emails. But it's amazing. You send out an email and you get 35% of those people open it up, and about 10% of the overall list will click through to your blog or to a cookbook or a launch that you have. And you can't get, for most people, you can't get for free engagement like that on any of the social media platforms. If you have 10,000 people like you on Facebook, you're not going to get 3,000 to 4,000 of them reading each post that you put out there.
Yeah, absolutely not.
It's also something that I found, because you can drive traffic kind of where you want to. It's a really good way to do product launches or cookbook launches. If you have sponsored posts for a company that you really want to impress, you can use your newsletter to drive traffic to that sponsored post, and you can really you have this fire hose that you can aim where you want to direct traffic, which is something that you don't have on a lot of other media.
Yeah, absolutely. And even for affiliate partners, I found that it's really great for affiliate marketing too.
Yeah, it's a good way to drive people wherever you want to drive them, which is
exactly.
So valuable.
And the cool thing about it is that I don't think anyone signs up for an email list and only expects you to just spit out recipes. They signed up because they like you and they want to hear from you, or they thought you had a really great lead magnet. But either way, they said, I want to hear from you. So they want to hear about your new recipe, but they might also want to hear about the new grocery delivery that I'm trying. Obviously you don't want to go completely into left field, but they want to hear different things from you and learn from you. That's why they're there. So they want you to talk to them.
Yeah, it seems much more conversational, which is weird because it is just broadcasting to them, but you can kind of go into more off-topic things because it's not a standalone piece of content, each thing you're saying, or on a Facebook post, it's going to be standalone and judged on itself. Newsletter, you kind of work it into kind of everything that's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
So you said you like to nerd out over it. So what's something that you've found that has really made a big difference that kind of surprised you that you didn't think would have the effect that it has?
The number one thing that surprised me is that it doesn't have to be hard. I thought that email marketing was going to be this big, scary thing, and it was going to be so much work, and it was going to spend so much time. While I love email marketing, I don't think I spend more than 30 minutes on it a week. It's a fairly passive thing for me at this point. But just in terms of getting started, all of my opt-ins, every single one of them on my site, nothing about them is exclusive. They are all recipes that if you search around on my site, you're going to find everything. And I know some people do have exclusive recipes or things in theirs, but I don't. So I have like a paleo crock-pot recipe one, I have a paleo sheet pan one, I have a 7-day meal plan. So yeah, it's formatted differently than you'll find it on my site, but it's the exact same content. So my first opt-in that I ever did was a 7-day meal plan, and I just took a bunch of recipes from my site, formatted them nicely, and made a meal prep schedule along with a grocery list. So yeah, it's a little different than what you'll find on my site, but it's all content that's there. I made it in Canva. It took me a couple of hours. I put a pop-up on my site and a couple other forms elsewhere. And for a while, that was my only opt-in, and it brought me thousands of subscribers. And then when I realized, I was like, wait a second, that really wasn't that hard to do. And I have a lot of other specific content like the crock pot one, like the sheet pan one, or keto, or Whole30, or all these other, categories. I said, what if I kind of get a little more specific and make opt-ins related to these categories that are super popular on my site? And then when I did that, it was just like instant. So now at this point, I'm getting usually at least 50 different subscribers a day, which I know to some people might seem like a ton, to some people might seem like nothing, because I'm sure there are people that are getting even more traffic and more subscribers than I am. But I think that just the idea that it's not hard, this doesn't have to be revolutionary. And if you just sit down and spend a couple hours doing things, whether it's creating the opt-in, but even more important than that, setting up your welcome series. If I were to walk away from my email tomorrow and not ever send another email again, I'm still confident that I would be bringing in traffic and selling affiliate deals, because most of my welcome sequences are 3 to 6 months. So people are constantly being fed my content from the day that they sign up, to kind of build that relationship and to just serve them with what they need.
You said a lot of different things there that I really like. The one was
Sorry, I'm very chatty. Once I get on a tangent, I just go.
It's very valuable information, so that's completely fine. You talked about reusing content, which I think is something that it's kind of, I refer to it as a superpower, that if the more you reuse your content, the more value you get out of it and the more time that you have. And I think as you said, some people look at that and say, like, this is available on my website already. Someone's going to be upset if they find out that I'm using it for a lead magnet. And that's just almost never the case. People signing up for your email list are almost always brand new people, and they're not going to search through your site for something specific. And they just want it in the format that they want it delivered to them in. And if you provide that, they're going to be happy. And it can be a great way to jumpstart lead magnets or email series, or I've used it to do cookbooks and cooking courses. That content's out there, but in a slightly different format. And you're honest and upfront with your readers about it. Like, if you want all the recipes for my cookbook, they're on my blog, but you have to search for them, and they're not in an order, and they don't have, updated photos, and it's not something that you can hold in your hand, but they're there if you want to search for them. But it's a great way to kind of jumpstart your efforts in a lot of different directions. And you were talking about doing the autoresponder series. Do you want to explain just a little bit about what that is for the people that don't really know what an autoresponder series is? Because they are so powerful.
They totally are powerful. Kind of like you were saying before, how most of the people that sign up for my email list are people that are new to my site. I get a lot of organic traffic. It's probably 75% of my traffic. So most of these people are just people that are stumbling upon me from Google. So my welcome series focuses on doing a couple of things. One, no matter what, it always starts with that freebie. So whether you got the meal plan or the Paleo Crock Pot ebook or whatever other free ebook I have, that's the first thing you get. And in that email, I kind of introduce myself a little bit. So I tell them, who I am, what they can expect to hear, and explain to them, like, hey, just so you know, you are going to hear from me because you signed up to get this and you are now on my email list. And as with all my emails, there's an unsubscribe button. So if they just want my free ebook and they want to hop out of there, then cool, that's fine. So the introduction and the freebie is the first thing. And then I tell them what they're going to get. So in that first email, I say, in a couple of days, I'm going to check in with you, and I'm going to send you the number one recipe on my site. It's the best recipe ever. It's my favorite, whatever. And then a lot of the following emails are most popular recipes on my site. So I know that they're great recipes. I know that people love them. People are looking at them every day and making them. So I just give them the best of the best. I share all of those recipes, and then I share my affiliate partners. So, I talk about, like convenience and cooking. You might like ButcherBox, you might like Thrive Market. And then I also urge them to follow me on social media, which is a kind of a new thing that I just added in there. But I have an email, the subject line is something kind of cutesy, like, are we really friends? Or like, do you want to be friends, or something like that. And it just says like, hey, like, you're on our email list. This is the best place to be. You get all the good stuff. But if you're on Instagram, you'll see this. If you're on Facebook, you'll see this. If you're on Pinterest, you'll see this. Because again, to your point, they don't know. They've never heard from me. They're new here. So maybe it didn't even occur to them to sign up to follow or to click follow on my Instagram when they were on my site. So those, I would say, are the main buckets for things that I send out to my email. And I just have them spaced out for a couple days apart. And it just goes on and on and on. And when I have a particularly great performing email, I just go ahead and copy paste it and pop it right into the welcome series. So I'm always adding to it. So it just goes on forever and ever.
Yeah, they're so powerful. When someone comes to your site for the first time, the only way that you have control over basically how you get introduced to them is by getting them to sign up for your newsletter and then having a welcome series. Otherwise, they'll just slowly get to know you over time, kind of as they stumble along your site through Google searches and kind of figure you out that way. But when they sign up for that newsletter, you can present yourself in the exact light that you want to present yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think a lot of us get so in the weeds of our own website that we think, well, obviously here's where my categories are for, pressure cooking and sous vide and grilling. if they want those recipes, they will just go to the categories page and find it. And it's like no one new on your site knows that you have a categories page, what other recipes you create, and you tell them that in a email, and they go like, oh, I didn't know that existed. Now I'm going to click through. Now I'm going to start exploring more, and you can kind of give them almost like an intro to your website, which a lot of people will be real interested in if you have the type of content that they want.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point that I forgot to include. I try to include questions at the end of my emails, which they don't always get answered, but what you said about the categories, I think, is what sparked it in my mind. I'm a health food blogger, so I'll ask, do you follow a specific diet? And then, someone will write back to me and say, oh, I follow the keto diet. I'm like, cool. Here's the page with all the keto recipes on my site. And then I also explain to them, we have icons at the top of all of our posts. K is for keto, and you can also look under substitutions. If it's not in there, just send me a message. Normally I can help you make it keto. And you'd be shocked at the responses that I get back from people who are like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. This is so helpful. Because I think that people don't always register like this email is coming from an actual person. So when they hear back from you and it takes me 2 seconds to reply with that information because I do know my site so well, but they don't. So having that info for them, I think, one, it will, like you said, make them go over and click around. But two, it's just like, oh, wow, like Listen to Clean Eating Couple took the time. She's a real person. She actually wrote that email. How nice of her, Yeah,
we spend so much time trying to put our voice into our recipe headers and our blog posts. And a lot of my first emails say, what's your biggest challenge? I do a lot of sous vide blogging. So my first email says, what's your biggest challenge right now in sous vide? And I reply to each one of those emails that I get in and say, here's an answer to it on my site. And I, over the years, have built up answers to pretty much every question people have. And if they don't, that's a perfect post for my website that I can then point them to. And it's just, like you said, it builds that rapport with them going, oh, this is a person. It's not just a computer or a machine sending me stuff. Yeah.
And that's a great idea to use to kind of decide what kind of content you're going to create. And that's awesome. But like you said, then not only are you being helpful and you're benefiting from it ultimately because they're going to go on your site, but beyond that, it, like you said, solidifies that you're a person, because then the next time that when their friend gets a sous vide cooker, I'm not even sure the correct terminology, or is it just called a sous vide? I clearly don't know anything about sous vide, but they're going to be like, oh, you have to check out this website. It's the best sous vide website out there. They're so helpful. They have so many tips. So it's kind of just fostering your brand awareness and, how much people are going to love you and your content.
There's so much talk about trying to stand out in this really crowded marketplace of blogging and social media. And one great way to do it is to actually have a conversation like that with a potential reader. Like, it does. People remember me that I see at conferences or that I talk to in different groups. And they're like, oh, remember like 6 years ago, I sent you an email about something. And I'm like, of course I remember your email 6 years ago, but it sticks out in them, and they don't remember any of the other bloggers that were out at that time. But because that personal interaction, they are recommending me to people, and they're a big fan of mine now, it's a good feeling, and it makes you feel good about kind of you're helping these people's lives, which is really cool.
Yeah, so true.
So one of the things we're all blogging for, at least listening to this podcast, are trying to make money and create a business and a living off of it. Nothing wrong with doing it as a hobby, but if you want to make money and turn it into a business, you have to focus on it. You have a lot of different income streams, whether it's recipe and blogging related, or if it's photography and consulting related. How have you kind of decided how to diversify your streams? And I assume you think that's a pretty important thing. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I definitely think it's a very important thing. It's you have to have more than one stream of income in, I think, food blogging. And the great thing about that is that it's not difficult to have more than one stream of income. There's a lot of different opportunities for you as a food blogger. My main sources of income are through my ad revenue, my affiliate partnerships, my ebooks that I sell on my site, and consulting or freelance work. So I do blog coaching and consulting, and I don't do it as much, but I do freelance work for brands and businesses, whether it's product shots or recipe development for their sites and social channels. So that's kind of my main bucket. And honestly, I've just found these things organically. So, oh, and sponsored content. Hello, that's a huge one too. But all of those have come to be really through just blogging. I would write a blog post when I first started, and I would talk about how much I love Bob's Red Mill. And then I was like, you know what? People are reading this and people are seeing that I'm using Bob's Red Mill. I'm going to reach out to them. And, I've been working with Bob's Red Mill for 3 or 4 years now at this point. Now they're one of my biggest sponsors and one of my greatest partners. Same thing with an affiliate relationship. I use ButcherBox personally. I bought it myself. I was like, this is really awesome. I was recommending it to friends and family members. And then I realized, oh, wait a second, affiliate marketing. Hello, I can make money for referring this. So I think that the best way to go about finding those income streams is organic. If you love a brand and you think that they are probably going to maybe need some photos on their site, or you look at their social media and you're like, oh my God, that looks terrible. Take 10 minutes, put their product out, take 5 photos, send it to them and say, hey, so-and-so, we love your brand. We've been using it forever. I was just taking some practice shots and this is what I took. And I would love to help you if you're ever looking for a social media or content creator. Maybe they have $0 to do that right now, but you better believe that the second that they have money to get images, they're going to be like, oh, remember that person that sent us those images? They were great. And we want to work with them because clearly they like our brand. So just do things organically and reach out to whether it be brands or affiliate partners or, your content. Be organic and be true to yourself. And I think that not that the money will just follow and fall into your lap, but that I think is the best way to kind of find the different sources.
It's much, much easier, in my opinion, to take something that you really like and then share that with your audience rather than find something that has a high affiliate payout or something and then try to talk yourself into why you'd want to recommend it. It's so tough. And I feel like people can sniff that out from a mile away. If I were to turn around and this is no disrespect towards these brands, but if I were to turn around tomorrow and partner with one of like the meal kit delivery things, people would be like, what the heck are you doing? Because I talk about shopping on a budget. I talk about how easy it is to cook with whatever you have on hand. I talk about meal planning and only going to the grocery store once and using, things in my fridge and pantry. If I started talking about one of those meal delivery services where it's, some of them are $15 to $20 a meal, my audience would be like, this is so fake. There's no way that Liz is paying to use this. It would just come off as really inauthentic. For some bloggers, that's a great partnership and it might make a lot of sense for them. For me, it doesn't. Even though the affiliate payout might be huge, if you're not really using it and don't authentically believe in it, they're going to know. Yeah, I think it's so important to find things that you personally like and care about and think it would be good for your audience. The mental thing that I do is I always picture that I'm writing an email to my mother-in-law about the product and how would I explain to her whether or not she should use it? And that's, I have to stare at her across the table at Thanksgiving. Like, I'm not going to do something that I don't believe in. So that's how I try to share with my fans as well.
Yeah. And, it's funny because my friends and my family will joke and be like, well, do you really use that? I'm like, yeah, I really do. I would not ever talk about things. I mean, I get, and I'm sure you do too, countless emails from random products and random things that they want me to try. And I'm just like, no, thank you. I'm sure it's great, but I really just have no interest in that because I don't want to talk about something unless I absolutely love it.
Yeah. And that helps if you focus on a few things that you really like, as opposed to recommend a ton of products. You're not overwhelming your fans. You're saying, here's like the 10 things that I use a lot in my daily base, daily life. And it stands out, I think, a lot more to them.
Yeah. And I think that in order to really be successful with an affiliate product, you have to constantly be talking about it. And not like in a shoving it down their throats marketing kind of way, but just an organic way. Like for example, ButcherBox is one of my largest affiliate partners. And, when I'm cooking dinner, I just am like, oh, this is ButcherBox chicken. Like we got it in our box. I'll put a link, in my stories. Or if someone asks me for something, I just recommend it organically. It's linked in all of my blog posts because it's just what I use. So it's a lot easier to kind of build that frequency with your audience if you're constantly talking about something. And if you have 40 different affiliate partners, there's no way that you could talk about them all the time.
Yep. So if someone has a few different things that they like, they found some affiliate programs for them, what are some ways that you've found that is really good to kind of promote these programs to your audience?
Yeah, like I said before, I think that a big part of it is frequency and constantly talking about it to your audience. So whether it's showing how to use the product in your daily life, and this does not have to be some high quality production. It can literally just be in your Instagram stories, like, oh, I'm cooking with this. It's so good. It's my favorite, whatever. And you can say things like, or I think that the best thing to do if you don't have the swipe up on Instagram, I think the swipe up is like way over glorified. But if you could put a poll and be like, do you want me to send you the coupon code, and have people vote and manually send them the link in your code? I think back to email. Email is huge. It's very easy for me to incorporate my affiliates into my emails. Linking them frequently in your blog posts is great. And writing a great keyword-rich blog post about them. If you Google ButcherBox, my blog post for them comes up because I think that it's like, I have nothing more to say about ButcherBox. If someone asked me, like my mom actually asked me about it earlier today, and I was like, click here and read this post. It has every single question that you could possibly think of. I've answered it because I've taken the time. And as people have asked me questions like, how does it compare to Costco? Or how does it compare to this? How does it arrive? All those questions are answered in there. So I think that if you really love something, write a really great keyword-rich SEO blog post, and that can be a great source of traffic for your affiliate partner.
And you also put out a few ebooks as well, right? How's
Yeah.
your experience with those?
Ebooks are definitely not as big of a revenue stream for me as I would like them to be, and that's by no fault other than my own. I don't talk about them enough. I don't promote them enough. But I do have 2 ebooks. I have one that's a paleo slow cooker recipes guide, and then I have one that's a 28-day healthy eating meal plan. And it's designed for people who are looking to eat paleo or Whole30. Week by week, it has the meal planning schedule, all the recipes, and a grocery shopping list to just kind of make it super easy. So if you say tomorrow I want to eat healthy, like there's no questions asked. You look at this book and it's got everything you need. So those are the 2 that I have. Something that has been really great for me and that I wish I did sooner was a tripwire, or some people call them like an upsell. So when someone subscribes to my email list, the landing page that it will take them to is a special offer page for my 28-day meal planning guide. So I think it's like $43 regularly priced. But when you sign up for my email list, it trips you over to this new page where you can get it for $9.99. It's something like 75% off. And that has been really high performing because it's directly related to my opt-in. So my opt-in is a 7-day meal plan. And if you buy the guide, it's 28-day meal plan. So people are just like, oh, for $10, why not? Why wouldn't I get a full month of this? And it's actually really interesting because, again, they probably don't even know me and they are still purchasing it. So it's funny to me that I get more sales from people that don't know me than I get from my audience. So it just goes to show that I really should be promoting it to my audience more because I think they would probably love it. But yeah, it's fun. And I will say though that my ebooks are things that are, my paid ebooks are things that are exclusive and that are on my site. That's just kind of the approach I've taken with that. But I don't think, like you mentioned before, their cookbooks, I don't think there's anything wrong about selling ebooks with the content that's already on your site because people just might like the format better. And that's something that I've thought of, but just quite honestly haven't put into place.
I'm curious. I always ask people that have ebooks out but not printed books. Why did you stop at ebook and not actually put out like a self-published cookbook?
So it's, again, on my to-do list. I really, really want a cookbook. I probably will go the self-publishing route because I've gotten a few cookbook offers and they have just been terrible. And when I did the math on the amount of time that it's going to take me to create it, it's, I can make 10 times that if I were to post something on my blog. So honestly, the main reason that I haven't gone with that is because the money hasn't been there. And I personally have to, I think I need to do my own experiment and take the time to really sell my ebook as if it were a cookbook and see how that pays off before I kind of go into self-publishing. But I for sure want to do it. Maybe, I mean, it's only March, but maybe by the end of this year, I would love to, if not next year.
Nice. I always like to ask people, I've self-published a lot of cookbooks, so I'm always curious when you go through the effort.
I know. I was
of
actually going to email you after the show to kind of pick your brain or see if you have any resources to check out.
Yep. I'd be happy to help out. I'm just a big proponent of that if you've gone through the effort of writing the book already, pretty much, turning it into a printed book and maybe fleshing it out a little bit it's a small amount of work compared to doing the initial work to get it out there.
Yeah.
And like I did a poll in my Facebook group and I said, like, how many PDF cookbooks do you own? How many printed cookbooks do you own? And the average person had, I think, 1.5 PDF cookbooks and 150 printed cookbooks.
That's so interesting.
And my favorite thing was a lot of food bloggers just put out ebooks. And so I posted this in a food blogger group as well. And the first 3 responses were, why would I have ebook cookbooks? They're all printed. Like the first 3 people responding. And I was like, well, that's why I'm asking, just curious. But yeah, that's been my biggest thing. I've seen so few people actually buy PDF cookbooks compared to printed books that it can be hard.
Yeah, I mean, and I have never bought a PDF cookbook in my life, and I would never use it because for me, I want to hold something. I want it on my counter or in my cookbook stand. I cook from cookbooks all the time, but I've never cooked from a downloadable PDF. It's just foreign nature to me. Yeah.
I'm the exact same way. So thanks for letting me pick on you. I wanted to ask about that because I'm always curious. I'll also put a link in the show notes to the page on Makin Bacon about self-publishing cookbooks if people are interested. But me and you can also talk later. I'm happy to answer any questions about it. So you also do something that I think a lot of bloggers don't think of enough, and that's using the skills you've developed over the time that you've been food blogging and basically consulting with them, using those to sell services to either brands or other food bloggers. How did you get into doing brand work, consulting with them, and becoming a food blogging consultant?
Yeah, so with working with brands, that was just something, again, that kind of came up organically. Whenever I would pitch a brand, I would say, and I also do this. If you're not doing sponsored content, if you need photos or recipes for your website, I'd be happy to help you with that. And that resonated with a lot of brands that I feel like kind of weren't at the point of being ready to do sponsored content. So a lot of smaller brands knew that they needed really beautiful photos for their Instagram or for their website, but they weren't ready to do the sponsored stuff. So instead, they could take that money and work with me in that way. So I would kind of do that when I was pitching, or when brands would reach out to me on the flip side to do sponsored content, I would say, if you really like my work, but they wouldn't have the budget. And I would say to them, if you really like my work, this might be a better option. We can work together and you can use the photos for that rather than, doing sponsored stuff. The other way that I found a lot of those brands is by going to trade shows, but I would go to Fancy Food Show or for my niche, Natural Products Expo East or West, or the big natural food trade shows. So I would go there, and fancy food, a lot of the food isn't super healthy. So when I would go there, I would go with the intent of pitching photography services. So I would just go to them and I would say, hey, really like your product. It's really delicious. Do you ever need food photos? Would love to get your contact. And, when you're at a trade show like that and there's a million people coming to the booth, you're not selling anything. But when you send your follow-up email, that's, when you can show your portfolio and kind of connect there. And I found some of my biggest clients there. I mean, I had a client 2 years ago that made up almost 25% of my income. And it was just from a cold pitch like that, walking up to them at a trade show. So you never know who you're going to bump into and what they're going to need.
I feel like it can be so hard to try to figure out what brands need help, or there's so many brands out there. And the brands at trade shows are there to meet people and to meet potential customers and meet potential business partners. It just kind of narrows it down to a lot of them are interested in talking to people like a blogger. So it made it a lot easier for me for a few of the I went to Fresh Summit, I think was the name of it. And it was so much easier to be able to meet brands there because that's why literally why they are there is to meet people.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I mean, you never really know. Who knows? They might have a photographer in-house. And sometimes you say that to someone and then that's what they tell you. And you go, okay, cool. It was really nice to connect with you. And you take their card anyways because you know what? You never know.
And as you said, a lot of bloggers don't realize that you can get press passes to a lot of these conferences out there.
Oh, yeah.
It's just email them, and some of them will have their requirements on their site, but you can get free tickets to a lot of these types of expos and events out there, and it can be a great way to meet brands at any of those, especially when you have press on your badge. Makes a kind of a good first impression.
Yeah, definitely. If you are on the East Coast like we are, Fancy Food is in New York, and this year Expo East, even if you aren't health food focused, there's a lot of different things there. It's in Philadelphia, but they're everywhere. They're all over the country. So definitely look and see, which ones fit your niche.
And a lot of places have smaller food events too. Like we have Food Loves Tech in New York, and it's just like a small, any place that has booths, basically, they're there basically to meet people.
I mean, you can even go to your local farmers market because I think that small businesses, there's a big opportunity for working with them because so many of them are people that are just passionate. If we're just talking specifically to food, they're super passionate about the food that they grow. So you can really help them, I think. I mean, you are not going to become a millionaire by doing photos for farmers market brands. It's just, there isn't that huge pocket of money there. But, it could be a really cool thing to do and just fun and different from what you're doing. That's a lot of the reason why I really enjoyed doing freelance work because many of the products weren't necessarily healthy or things that I could otherwise talk about or cook with on my own site. So it was fun to be able to create more indulgent, delicious recipes like desserts and mac and cheese because, I like cooking that too, but it's not what I share. So it's a cool opportunity if you kind of want a different realm to play in. And same goes for restaurant photography. I mean, that's a whole nother ball game. But if you enjoy that and you want to get into that, that's a very lucrative industry.
I like the point of going to farmers markets as well, that if you do want to get more into this type of consulting work, whether that's photography or social media consulting or any sort of working with brands consulting, it's going to be hard for you to get a partnership with Bob's Red Mill out of the gate. They're going to say, oh, well, what have you done? What past projects? Can we see some of your metrics? And you say, well, I've never done this. I have none of that information. Or if you decide that you do want to work with these brands, go to your farmer's market, talk to these small people, and work on trade for the first few.
I was just going to say that.
It's a great way to build up your resume, get in the door, and then when you go to someone better, or bigger, you could say, here's what I've done, here's the success that I had, and this is why you should hire me because my past results speak for themselves.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think that a lot of people are very against, working for free and are very, no, I would never do that. But you have to be realistic. When you purchase literally anything, whether it's someone that you're hiring for your business, whether it's a contractor to work on your home, you would never hire someone if they were like, just take my word for it, I'm really good at this. There's no way. You want to read the reviews. You want to hear what other people have to say for them, or you want to see an example of their work. If I were to go to a brand and be like, just take my word for it, I'm a really great food photographer, they'd be like, what the heck are you talking about? You've never done this before in your life. So I think to that point, going and offering to do something, you shouldn't work completely for free. You should get something, whether it's food or a discount or something. But working in exchange for trade to build up a portfolio, just do it 3 or 4 times, and so that you have something to show and share with other people. And you'd be really surprised by how far that goes. I
had Cami on from Everything Food a few weeks ago, and one of the things she also agrees that working for free to get your foot in the door in specific circumstances makes a ton of sense, and it's something she's used. And she says one of the other reasons is if you did happen to get Bob's Red Mill for whatever reason out of the gate, you're probably going to do a bad job. If it's your first
Yeah.
time running a campaign, like she says, one of the things that she liked a lot is that she worked with people with smaller, kind of, they weren't paying her in, a lot of money or tens of thousands of dollars. It might be in trade or however they're working together. And then she could figure out her process and figure out how to deliver the most value. So when she did get these big brands, she just hit the contract out of the park because she knew exactly what they were looking for.
Yeah. I mean, I think, it's an old saying, but practice really does make perfect. I mean, nothing's perfect, but close to perfect. So you definitely don't want to be practicing on like your number one choice, all-time favorite brand. You want to be practicing on something where you're not getting compensated or you're getting compensated very little. So that, not that there's room for error, but there is a little room for error,
Yep. So I'm sure people are going to have more questions about everything we've talked about. And you also do one-on-one consulting. So if people want to get a hold of you, they can reach you at liz@thecleaneatingcouple.com and on Instagram @thecleaneatingcouple, correct?
Yes, that's the place to find me. Feel free to send me an email on anything we've chatted about. I love to connect with people and chat about all things blogging, so I would love to chat with you.
And then they can also catch you at the Everything Food Conference at the beginning of August now, since it got delayed with all of the fun coronavirus times. So if you see Elizabeth there, say hi to her. If you see me there, say hi to me as well. Always happy to talk. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing all your expertise.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is great. And I think it's going to be really helpful for people. So thank you.
Once you've sold brands on wanting to work with you, you still have to figure out how much to charge them, and that can be really hard. Luckily, this video with Lori Rice is going to give you a lot of great tips on how you can price your work so you get paid fairly.